Greetings and salutations. Thank you for joining us. My name's Johnny Nato, and you've entered into Embrace Your Storm. We've got another exciting, awesome episode for you. Before we get to it, don't forget to create an account on the website. Send us your emails, hello@embraceyourstorm.com. Yeah, there's dashes in the domain name. And also check out the other podcast called Soundbite, and it's a reaction podcast that comes out daily, listening to a new metal song every day. So, with that being said, thank you all for joining us. And today we are speaking with Catherine Capozzi, because I'm going to Americanize her name. And Catherine, thanks for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for asking me. Totally appreciate it. It's great to be
No,
here.
it's my pleasure to have you on. So, but before we get into, we got into a lot like I do with all my guests before the podcast. So,
Sure, sure.
before we get too far into everything, how did you stumble into guitar? How did you find that as your creative outlet?
Oh, wow. You know what? I let me think way back. I don't know. I've always just like loved guitar. And from way back when, I've always, when I was little, I had bongos that was from my cousin, so I was banging on stuff. And then at the time that I went to school, which I won't tell you what years those were, but when I was younger, they had a good music program. I took violin, and I was just like, oh, I would like, my younger brother, my brother who was a year younger than me, would always like, sometimes he would also get like a little plastic guitar and be like, hey, I want to play guitar.
Mm.
From there, I just kind of like, I always wanted to do all the things, and that's how I fell into guitar. And so I think, I remember that I used to walk from where I lived to my guitar lessons, and my brother, who is no longer with us, but he used to walk me to my
Mm.
guitar lessons, and it was, I had a very strict, old Italian teacher, was a former Marine, and
Oh, geez.
yeah, that was it was quite the thing. But I just loved guitar, studied it, and just wanted to always do it. And so that's kind of how I fell into it. But
I
from
just
right
got an
away.
image, Catherine. I just got an image of your guitar teacher being like, "But my fingers hurt." What? Your
Yeah,
fingers hurt?
yeah, yeah. He was very. Oh yeah. I this it was like, drop and give me 20 if you're gonna make a mistake. Okay. But that was like, but I loved it. It was great.
Were there any like guitarists then that it doesn't, because usually someone's like influenced by like someone else, right? But it doesn't sound like that for you. So did you
No,
find a guitarist later on where you're like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm talking about?
I mean, that's a great question, because for me, I think because my family, I have obviously an Italian background. I'm like second generation on my grandfather's side, he was
Mm,
born in
mm,
Italy. So I think growing up, there was a couple of things. Music was always present. There was all these old Italian records. And
mm,
I don't think that, people were, my great grandfather played mandolin, not that I've ever heard him play, because I think he was well beyond playing by the time, I was born. But there was always, music was everywhere, all the family gatherings, everybody did the tarantella, everybody, so it was kind of like, it was just something that I think I wanted to make music with something. I don't know that there was no guitar player necessarily that stood out for me, but I remember that my grandparents had a record that, Tony Mottola, it was Roman guitar, and
mm.
that I loved the sound. I mean, it's weird, but it was like, they had all the old opera records and all the like really old stuff that you will never ever hear again, ever. Because I mean, it just, they had this record, and for some reason I gravitated towards it. I loved it, and I kept like wanting to hear it, and I loved the sounds. I loved that. So I think that was probably, maybe Tony Mottola might have been my first, guitar player that I liked. But then, of course, I moved into like, all the rock stuff, Allman Brothers,
Oh
Led
yeah, Dwayne
Zeppelin,
Allman, hell yeah.
all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
also the classical guitar, because I started out on classical guitar, and Andre Segovia. I used to do all Andre Segovia,
That's interesting.
exercises when I
So
was.
did a lot of that kind of come over into your rock playing, the kind of classical approach and
Yes,
stuff?
yes, that and
Mm.
violin also. My violin teacher got mad at me because he was like, when I wanted to play drums and guitar in addition to violin, and he was like, "You want to be a rock star? You don't want," because he wanted me to be in an orchestra, and I was just like, I don't know, and I didn't like him. So, which is, that's
You're
the
even more. You're like, no, I don't want violin, dude.
yeah,
No way.
exactly. I mean, I and to be honest, I love the violin is a beautiful instrument. It's the closest thing to a human voice that you're going to get, and I think that
Hmm.
that follows me into how I compose, especially with my group Axe Monkey, which is I guess
That's awesome name, Axe
instrumental.
Monkey.
Yeah, Axe Monkey is my, band, which is like, okay, I've worked with a lot of vocalists, but guess what? Now the guitar is the voice, and I have two drummers, and it's a mix of rock and metal and cinematic mayhem, and the guitar is the voice, and
That's interesting.
about to release, an EP soon called Metal Monkey, based on a movie I did several years ago called What Metal Girls Are Into. So,
That's
anyway,
freaking
so
awesome.
yeah, so segueing into a lot of stuff. So guitar, violin influenced me, and listening to, a lot of different instruments. I think I love drums. I love percussive melodic
Mm, mm.
stuff.
You listen
Um,
to a lot of Frank Zappa?
I didn't listen, but I do like. I love Frank Zappa. He's great. So
Yeah,
yes, I
yeah,
do. But I mean, most of the stuff I listen to has always been a wide variety of stuff. I think,
yeah.
which I think, people who have reviewed some of the things that I do are always like, oh, sometimes in one song you start here and then you go to different places, but it all makes
That's
sense
cool.
because it's coming through
Yeah.
the voice of, it's how I interpret things, so
No, that's very cool. Like,
yeah.
when I was gonna circle back to it, are you familiar with Inve Malmsteen?
Yes.
So I saw an interview with him. I was never the, biggest fan of his, but once I heard him say this, everything fell into place. And he was like, look, I loved violin as a kid growing up, listening to all the like Stravinsky and all that stuff. And he was like, when I picked up a guitar, he's like, I wanted to play it like a violin. And I was like,
Oh, there
oh,
you go. Okay,
I
interesting.
said, there you go.
Yeah.
Now that makes a lot more sense, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for
And
sure.
so
I
once you
mean,
heard him say that, I was like, wow, okay. And so it's just interesting to hear you saying that, like you loved all these other instruments, which, eventually, in one way or another, subconsciously, consciously, has uh
yeah.
not messed with, but created your technique of how you play your instrument.
Exactly. Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it all influences. I mean, as I said, oh, excuse me, traveling and being able to tour, and also just the different musical uh, places that I've been, as far as people I've collaborated with, all that influences
Mm, mm.
everything. Everything influences it. I mean, my great grandfather loved opera, and I have a lot of his music that's in Italian, and I have like the William Tell Overture. I have Puccini stuff. I have like all this old stuff that when I was younger, I'd be like, "Oh, this is cool." I mean, most of it I couldn't play because it was just like there were scores, but
Yeah,
but it was. I liked the beautiful melodic lines, and so that kind of carries over into a lot of what I'm doing now. And then, through the different musical places that I've been, especially because I was in Boston for, many, many years until I moved back to Connecticut a couple of years ago after my parents passed. But when I was in Boston, I had the opportunity to, work with a core group of people, and I still work with these people because I
that's
go
cool.
back frequently, and they're my bandmates and my friends. But we have started out with rock, and one of my bands was a rocktronica band, so we kind
Hmm.
of incorporated elements of electronica into the
If you
rock.
don't mind me asking, what year was that? Because it sounds ahead of its time.
It was 2000, 2001, and we kind of
Yeah, a
were,
little bit.
we were ahead because the stuff I've had, libraries request, and different music supervisors like, we're looking for this rock electronica stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that the stuff I did way back when. Okay. And the
Call me
person,
20 years ago.
yeah, and I've actually submitted some of it because they're like it still holds because we were
Yeah, no, I hear you.
the singer in our band, Christine Zoufri, who is in France. I mean, and, she's a longtime collaborator, but her voice was very operatic in ways and very unique. And
Mm,
so and yeah, she's Swiss. So we kind of had this very different thing going with we,
that's
and our
cool.
drummer, had our Tamara Gooding was a drummer. She had electronic drums, and we had,
Ah, that is cool.
yeah. So
I,
we,
I wanted I wanted a drummer in the early 2000s. I was in a heavy metal band, granted,
yeah.
but I wanted a drummer that would play an electronic drum set in like 1999.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because I was just like, dude, your drums are gonna sound sick through a
Yeah.
PA if you,
Yeah.
like, granted, your drum set might look a little silly, but it's gonna
Yeah.
sound amazing.
Exactly. And it does. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
yeah, and so, I mean, I think as I said, it's like things evolve and things move and
yeah.
from like doing rock electronica because our singer was French was her first language. Someone asked us to do a set of Edith Piaf at a Bastille Day celebration, which we were like, all right, sure, we'll do it. And that really led to a crazy, crazy thing that, took us all around. Because,
That's funny.
my band, All the Queen's Men, we toured in Europe. But then the band that we morphed into called Zioff, we toured all around Europe. And, we got to meet some people that worked with Edith Piaf, including one
Hmm,
of her boyfriends, who was a very famous French artist, Georges Moustaki.
hmm.
Uh, so we got to hang out at his
That's
place and
crazy.
hear some the stories that
That's
people would
crazy.
never have heard if you didn't like. This was inner circle,
I hear
and of
you. I hear
course,
you.
it's not my culture, but we were, we weren't putting Edith Piaf on a little pedestal going, oh my, she's amazing. We kind of interpreted her through the idea that she was, this rocker, and we were rockers, and we interpreted her spirit, I guess, through our rock lens. And so that was quite an experience, and it also learning how to we learned how to play the music scale. These big orchestrations were pared down to piano, drums, and voice and guitar, and but through our lens, our rock lens.
Hmm, hmm.
So so you know we got to play these songs that were, some of them, if you think about the arrangements, they were kind of badass rockers
That's
when you
cool.
look at like how they could be arranged. They were and very complex, and so that stuff all, you carry that forward into, especially for doing movie composing and things like that, that really expanded my musical vocabulary. And
There you go.
also, you're touring in Europe, you're just in a very different situation than you are here. You're in buildings that, when you walk into the building, there's a story that you can feel just being
I
in
hear
the
you.
building.
Yeah,
So all that stuff was an awesome experience. And I always say I'm the purveyor of eclectic once in a lifetime experiences, because through all that, I was able to through the singer Christine, we managed to find a way into the catacombs of Paris.
that's cool.
And we played we wanted to do some photos down there, and some and we got a tour down there. And then and this is not anything that no one can just go down there and do this. This is completely, we were not in the catacomb museum. I probably should be careful what I say.
Right.
Don't do this at home. Do not try this at home, because you can't, kids. It's we did it with an expert, who is now Christine's husband, who guided us through. Like
That's
one day it
funny.
was, I think, a 9-hour tour, and we played the highlight of the whole catacomb experience was we played a concert that was supposed to be the 100-year anniversary of a concert that happened in the catacombs, with the Paris Orchestra was in the
That's
catacombs playing this,
crazy.
with like a poet and there were three main songs that were, or three or two main musical pieces that they played. One was the Funeral March by Chopin, and one was the Danse Macabre, uh,
Mm.
which so we did that, but then we also did our own set. But it was wacky because it was like a total military operation where we were walking in the streets of Paris and we knocked on the top of a sewer cover. And then the team was like, all right, you go. So you had to descend 60 feet
Oh
down.
man.
Like I said, this is not something you can't do this. This has to be, you know, you need to know what you're doing,
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so anyway, we walked to the main room, which is not, it's not a room, it's all the catacombs are like a misnomer. It's actually like the quarry where they get all the stones to make the buildings in
Mm.
France. So there was one big, carved out space where we did the show, and it was definitely unique experience.
Man, that is crazy. So like what what like got you into kind of like the like metal guitar and metal music then if like you're saying your band Axe
Excellent.
Monkey is kind of
Yeah.
like yeah. It's like
Um,
what got you going down that road?
I because once again, it's just I like that kind of music. I like the rhythms, I like the sounds, I like being loud. I think just there's some of my favorite sounds are this wacky distortion pedal I have, which I know some people be like, "Oh my God, it's so annoying," but when I hear it, it's sometimes the way the feedback and the distortion goes, it's very soothing to me because
Mm, mm.
it's hard to explain, but that's so I really do like that. I like that kind of music. I like the rhythms. I like the musicianship that goes along with it. And for me, don't forget, I'm not Axe Monkey doesn't have a vocalist, so we
Right.
have a lot more leeway as far as what we can do,
I hear
and
you.
so it opens up musically. I think a lot of places I don't have to have a singer be like, I can't sing in that
Yeah,
key.
I
We're like,
can't hit
well,
that note
nobody
or
cares.
whatever. No problem, dude. I have 24
Yeah,
frets.
yeah, exactly. I mean, for me now it's kind of like, oh, maybe I need to look at. I'm looking at. I used to have the what is it? The Digitech Whammy Wah, which you can
Oh
drop,
yeah.
and
You know what's funny? I was just talking about that with another guest. He was like, "You got to get that pedal. It's amazing." Like
yes,
just because of the detuning and stuff you can do with it.
yes, and I
Yeah.
used it on a couple of early Axe Monkey records, and then I actually was borrowing the pedal, and then I was like, I had to give it back reluctantly, and so then I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's because when I'm trying to recreate some of the stuff, we play this live. I'm like, wait a second, what did I do? And then I'm like, oh, you idiot. Yes, you used that pedal, which you don't have because you did not buy it. And now I'm thinking I need to go buy that pedal. So, but,
So what kind of guitar do you use? Or if you
well,
have
I
multiple.
have my main guitar. There's two. One is a 1972 Les Paul Deluxe, which I of course had gutted out, not gutted, but I have it rewired so that it's like wired like a standard,
Mm.
and I also have it tuned down to drop C tuning, so everything
Oh
is tuned
geez.
down. And
Okay.
then and then I have the uh, the famous, what is it? Well, I played a guitar contest in Boston a while back, and I guess Brian May was putting this on after Freddie Mercury passed away. It was Brian May's
Oh, this is in the early
funeral.
90s then.
Yeah, early 90s. Anyway, it was when Tower Records held this contest. It was you're supposed to go play a 2-minute guitar solo, and then the idea was Brian was gonna pick the winner, and you're gonna get his guitar. So
Okay.
I didn't want to do it, but my friends were like, "You should do it." I was like, "I don't want to do it," and then I practiced like the solo with all my stuff, where I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll have to bring this pedal and all this," and I worked out this thing, and then when the day of the that I had signed up for, I signed up for the very last spot, right? Because it was a Tower
Yeah,
Records,
yeah, yeah.
and you couldn't use anything except their gear.
Oh man.
So when I went up, it was like, I remember I was like, it was Friday, literally the last day, the last hour that you could do it. I signed up and I heard as I'm coming up the escalator on Newbury Street in Boston, I'm listening to somebody really killing it, like a Queen solo, and just I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then there was another guitar player that came up afterwards who was awful, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then I was already up on the platform, and the guy who was running it was like, "You signed up, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, you're next." And I was like, and I'm thinking, well, okay. And he goes, "You're gonna have to use this guitar," which was a Guild guitar, theirs. And I sat down and I knew that I they were giving people like a 10-minute warm up, but they were going to film you for 2 minutes. And I started playing, and the guy was like, "I'm filming you now." I was like, "I didn't warm up." And he's like, "Doesn't matter." And he started filming me. I don't know what I played. All I did, I just started playing because I couldn't play what I practiced because
Right. You're
none
just
of the
kind of
pedals were
jamming
there.
out.
I
Right.
just started playing, and they were like, "We're filming you." And I was like, "Okay." So literally, then a crowd started gathering, and I was like, really did not feel comfortable. And so as soon as, I just made something up, played for 2 minutes, handed them the guitar, and I was so flustered. I walked into the folk music section. No offense to people who are folk music people, but I was like, this is the last place I would ever walk, and I just wanted to get away. And one of the guys who worked there followed me in there, and he was a drummer, and he goes, "I was here all week, and that was really awesome." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, appreciate it." Anyway, he wound up being my drummer, like,
That's funny.
so, and then a week later, I get a call from Tower Records, and this guy, Dave, he's like, "Hey," he goes, "So, you were one of the finalists for the guitar, because Brian was going to give his guitar." And I was like, "Yeah."
That's
He's like, "So
crazy.
what do you think of, Brian? What do you think of Queen?" And I was like, they're, because at the time I wasn't like a huge Queen fan. I just wanted to
Right.
do it, you
Right.
know? And I was like, they're good. And he goes, "All right, well, what do you think of Brian as a guitar player?" No, Brian is, kick ass. He goes, "Well, I hope so, because he just picked you to get his guitar." And I was like, "No, Brian's amazing." I
Oh
meant to say
man.
Brian, because he is. He's a true Renaissance. I mean, I think I didn't know why they were calling me.
No, I hear what
So,
you're saying. You're just kind of like, okay, yeah,
like,
Brian May is good,
yeah,
man.
Brian
Yeah,
May, of
yeah,
course. And I'm thinking, no, the guy, he's brilliant. Of course he's brilliant. I'm just not going to say that right now. Anyway, so I got Brian May's Guild guitar,
Dude, that's freaking crazy.
and he presented it to me, and I never thought that I couldn't figure out, like, if he actually did, pick me. But when he gave me the guitar, he said something that only another guitar player would say that was very specific to my playing. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, he definitely, he picked me, because the guy who ran the contest told me that they had narrowed it down to 10, and
yeah,
they gave Brian 10 videos. So Brian, out of the 10, that, because it was 104 people that competed originally, and
that's
then they
crazy.
narrowed it down to 10, and then Brian decided that I should get the guitar. So
That's
that's my,
pretty freaking awesome.
yeah. And you know what? I didn't realize what a big deal it was until I saw, the Queen movie that came out. Because I mean, my singer Christine was like, "Why?" It was my trophy guitar. I had it under my bed, and she was like, "You can't leave that under your bed. You need to play it." And I was like, "But he signed it." And so anyway, I have, like, a special thing over his signature.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and
Yeah.
then when she was like, "You got to take it out," and so I brought it to Europe, and I didn't realize, like, oh,
Oh,
Brian
people must have
May,
went crazy for
they
that
did, and I
guitar.
was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like, yeah, I was during a solo. Somebody tried to, kiss me on stage when I was embarrassed. I was like, all right, back off. Where's security? This is weird. This is weird. I had some guy lick my shoes and some other place. I'm like, you people are weird. Leave me alone. But anyway, yeah. So then, but it was still didn't hit me until I saw the Queen movie a couple of years ago, and I was watching the movie, and halfway during the movie, because the whole movie is he's playing this guitar, and then at one point, I think it was like they were at Wembley. I don't know what. There was a scene when they were at Wembley Stadium. I was looking, I was like, oh damn, that's my guitar. Oh wow. Okay, I guess that's
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
why. It
that's
was very delayed reaction. But anyway, that's another special guitar, which is a very unique guitar that I use. So I've
no,
got that.
totally.
I've got a
So then
Strat.
it sounds like you plug into a bunch of pedals too then.
I do. I do. I
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, like a
I have
pedal board and stuff.
I've got my pedal board. I play through 2 amps usually.
What do you play?
So
What are they?
I have my Marshall JCM 800 and a
Okay, old school.
orange. Yeah, yes, which is it's old school, and now honestly, I don't want to take it out when I play shows because it's just the tubes are very sensitive, and
I
I'm
hear
very,
ya. Yeah,
concerned.
yeah,
So, and then I have a Fender Deluxe that was nice. So I have like a clean
nice.
amp, and then I have my dirty sound with my
So
Marshall.
you use the Fender clean and the orange dirty,
I
right?
I do, but now
Yeah.
what I actually so the clean and the dirty go together as a sound, but then when I want to like have that extra crunch for leads, I have my over OCD overdrive pedal
Oh, yep.
and another like I have a fuzz factory. So those are all through my clean channel, and then I've got like just like delay and a harmonist and my wah pedal through my dirty.
Okay.
So and actually I just recently purchased the because I'm like, oh, I can't my studio's in Boston, but I when I want to leave and play a show from here, I need to have something here. So I've just purchased the Boss Katana Artist,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I have to say I played a show with it and I'm like, oh, this can go from like, my can keep my heavy distortion at any volume. And so I'm, kind of excited. I have to explore the amp more, but so far
Yeah, you
I'm
can
I'm
do a lot
liking
of crazy stuff. I've almost strictly used digital amps my entire guitar. Like I've been playing digital amps since like 94 or 5 when I got the Rocktron Chameleon.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been in that digital world. I've almost never I did own a Marshall 25th anniversary amp.
Yeah.
But that's really the only amp I owned that was tubed or whatever. Everything I've owned was always a digital like amp modeling kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You know, I was I don't know. Is it the Kempler or the
Kemper. Yeah, there's Kemper and
Kemper.
Line
Somebody was
6.
like, "Oh, you should try that," and I'm like, I don't know that I want to be at a show and having to look at a little digital delay, like a digital display, to kind of be like, "Oh, hey, I can't. I got to get this and this and this." And I know, um, yeah, I guess I like knobs better to turn.
I hear you. No, I totally get that. Like you kind of have to like really nerd out with like if you get an Axe FX or whatever,
Yes,
it
yes,
does take a lot of time to like dial them in, but they're
yes,
so freaking flexible. It's like there's nothing you can't do with them. Like, but you got
yeah,
to take the time to like really dial it in though.
yeah.
And
That's
it takes
yeah.
more effort than just fiddling knobs or you know what I mean? Because there's so much stupid control in it. It's
Right. And
you
that's
know,
the and I appreciate that. And the thing is kind of like because my band has two drummers, I'm like I need to be able to hear myself on stage when I'm playing because my drummers are pretty heavy dudes.
no, I
They're
hear
pretty
you.
heavy.
I hear you.
So I can't. And my bass player, the bass player that's an Axe Monkey, I shouldn't say but my collaborators, my creatives in Axe Monkey are, uh, they're amazing musicians, and uh, our new bass player has nine strings on his bass. So
Oh man.
there's and he built that himself. So it's kind of there's a real uh heaviness to the sound, but also so I need the flexibility to have some power behind me.
Yeah.
I was that's why I figured this one here I'm going to give it a chance, but I still need I always like to have the clean and dirty, so I have to look at was telling when I was putting out the words like, oh, I gotta get an amp that's easy to carry. I wanted something that was light and loud. That was my criteria. And
There you
everybody's
go.
like, and everybody wanted to give their 2 cents. It's like, well, you gotta suck up and just carry this. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have to suck up and carry anything. I know what it's
Exactly.
like to carry gear up 4 flights of stairs to my rehearsal studio. I don't want to do that anymore.
Exactly. No, exactly. So
Yeah.
so like with Axe Monkey, like how did you get into scoring for films then? Because we were talking about that before the interview. So like
Yeah.
was it kind of like during the time of doing Axe Monkey kind of stuff or like,
Yeah,
throughout your
yeah.
travels?
Yes. It was always it was definitely after Zoff, which was like, the touring around Europe. But I guess that was kind of like how it just kind of started like after that. And Axe Monkey, I knew with Axe Monkey, it's like I wanted to have the flexibility to just explore uh, different musical loud soundscapes without
Mm,
having to worry about a vocalist, and kind of create these stories. And I think when when people heard the first Axe Monkey CD that I did, they said, "Oh, it's very cinematic. It's almost like a soundtrack kind of thing."
mm, mm.
And so, and the songs that I was making had stories attached to them, and I felt like, oh yeah, this is, it's almost like Tchaikovsky. If you're listening to the overture of 1812, there's a story that goes along with the music, and each of the pieces that I created for Axe Monkey had a story. And so I think from there it was kind of a good segue into doing film stuff, and wanting to do film, because there's uh, a lot of different musical itches that I have, and doing film especially allows me to kind of delve deeper into stuff that, well, I would never play any of this live, but I really like these sounds, and I really like making these emotions happen, within
Mm,
the context of a scene. So I
mm.
think so I was able to kind of scratch both musical itches, I guess, with being able to kind of segue into film. And I think, as I said, I was working a lot with my friends in LA, Launch Over Productions, and they were doing a lot of different movies, so I was able to score their films. And from there, there's a network of people from the different uh, movie festivals that were
Yeah,
popping up
yeah,
that
no, totally. Because
the
people would see like,
films.
oh, music done by so and so, like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. And
and
then
then you're gonna reach out to you.
yes, exactly. And so that's kind of what started what started happening, and hopefully people like what I do enough to refer me. And also, it doesn't help that at some of these independent festivals, film festivals, I did get recognized for the score, so I've won several awards for the score for different things that I've done. So that
That's cool.
also, I think, helps. And then uh, you know, and I love doing that stuff, but I do love performing, and doing work with Axe Monkey. And also, a big thing that I did, which is kind of a project that I did a Kickstarter for, was called Springisher Women, which combined, it was a multimedia international event show, which combined, I guess, my peak experiences from touring in Europe, and having my band Axe Monkey expand into like a bigger orchestra, and being able to work with vocalists, filmmakers, dancers, and poets, and physical artists. I put together this show, which ran in Boston for three different times, and that was kind of combined all the different experiences into one big thing.
That's
So
cool. That's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it was great. And it was a lot of work, obviously, but I think it was it was a project that, if we had a big producer and big financer behind us, that hopefully, maybe I'll do it again, I don't know, but it was something that connected, people from different worlds on an independent level, creating something that was hopefully bigger and outside of ourselves, and in a way that kind of told the story of these iconic historic female figures throughout history, that we were just kind of interpreting them in different ways, with my friends and people from across the world that I've met. And even though we might not have spoke the same language, they wanted to be involved in the project, so it was cool.
Mm, well, they spoke the international language, which is music.
100%.
Everyone knows that language,
100%. 100%.
Um, so like, would you say you're doing more film composing or Axe Monkey stuff? Like, where would you
Yes.
say you?
Right now, yeah, well, yeah, because I'm working on a movie now. But yes, definitely film composing, but also like Axe Monkey. And then another project I have is called Flamenco, which is a guitar duo with Rafi Sofer, who is like been my longtime friend from Boston, and he's an engineer and a producer out of the studio in Boston called Q Division. But we have a project called Flamenco, which is we we were both like, well, we both started on nylon string guitar. We're both rockers. His band when we first met in Boston was called the Invisible Rays, which was also an instrumental psychedelic
Hmm,
band. And
that's
Max
funny.
Lemke. So we kind of like were like, I ran into him like on one of the bike paths in Boston, and we're like, hey, we should play nylon string guitar someday. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And then we came up with Flamenco. So we actually just filmed, and we're in the process of recording, I guess, our first set of music EP, seven
That's cool.
songs.
That's
But
cool.
we also just recorded a couple of videos Sunday, and we our idea is that we would like to get into this guitar festival which happens in Mexico called the Zihuatanejo International Guitar Festival, which I've played twice, but I would love to play with Fomenko. So anyway, there's that, and Fomenko is definitely two nylon string guitars that are exploring the very extremes of nylon string guitar, because we're kind of
That's
bringing,
yeah, that's probably pretty intense.
yeah, we're bringing like the elements of like Jimi Hendrix and Paco de Lucia meets Black Sabbath into what we do. So it's kind of it's another, once again, another exploration that kind of goes back to my roots, but it's expressed in a different way. So
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. So like what would you say to someone like with this day and age of like it seems like kind of like the musicianship like kind of not industry or whatever, but it's drastically kind of changed where it's like, it's not really about gigging. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's like the landscape's changed a lot. So like what would you say to like musicians wanting to maybe start a band or even start playing or whatever it is? Like what would someone have to do today to get started?
I mean, I think it depends on like where you are in your life. Okay, so if you're a younger person that you want to get started, which I always, because I'm a guitar instructor, I teach people of different levels and different ages. Okay, so I think
Mm,
it's
mm,
awesome guitar or any musical instrument, but starting in a situation where you can take yourself out of yourself, right? Because I never thought that when I started playing guitar a long time ago that I would get to the guitar has brought me around the planet. I got to go to places I would never have been to. But
hmm,
because I play guitar, I got to go. I got to meet people I would never have met. So I think
hmm.
the key thing when you're starting out is to kind of, enjoy what you're doing. You're doing this thing which is really awesome and a good expression for yourself, your brain. Don't do it because you want to be famous. Don't do it because you need
Mm,
to make
mm.
$1 million. Those are all the wrong reasons to do that, because the difference between like you wanting to be a musician and a creative person and an artist that's in your soul versus somebody who wants to just be a star. And there's nothing against that. Do you want to be a star? Awesome. But I think that the people who are stars and who want to be stars, that's a very small pocket of people that get
Mm,
get there. And there's a lot that goes into that. But you wanting to be whatever sound is that you can make out of a guitar that does something for you, that resonates with you, and then you can meet other people that you can create with, that is something I would focus on, not the
mm.
you got to focus on what you get internally from making these sounds and what you feel from these
Exactly.
sounds.
Yeah.
You can't
Hmm.
focus on the external validation of you making those sounds, because hey, I know people who are freaking amazing musicians and nobody's going to ever hear about them, but
I
that's
hear
okay
you.
because they're doing it because of a very different reason. So I think that you have to come at it from a place where if an instrument or a sound resonates with you and you want to make that sound, cool, now that's a great starting point. And then if you want to like do it so that you can like make those sounds with other people, that's awesome. And then you do that, and then you kind of like from there, like as far as like getting together and being in a band, if you're all kind of like playing together, making these sounds and making songs and things that you all like, then from there you kind of work together. It's like, learning the whole process of like, there's the business of, there's the aspect of doing music, which is just the creative part, which has nothing to do with the business part, and then there's the part that's not so much fun, which is the business. And when you
Yeah.
decide that you want to take that level, take it out of the basement and like do something else, well then guess what? Then you become a business, and as a business, you're in charge of your creation, which is your R&D, whatever. You're creating the stuff. You're also going to be marketing it. You're also going to be
Yeah.
budgeting, like how you
Yeah.
do that, and then you're going to be negotiating all that stuff. And those are the things that you learn working with people, and hopefully people that you like, and then you know you take it to those next steps. And I know that creating in today's world is not the same as it was when I started. You know, you basically you can make a song in your bedroom and then put it out and have it out
Yeah.
on,
Yeah. It's
you know, the
crazy.
interwebs,
Yeah.
you know, today. And if you're a kid that's got like a lot of people that just follow you for whatever, well, you're probably going to get a lot of people just listening, even whether it's good or bad. Who's going to know, you know?
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. That's
So,
true.
so, so there is that. And I think that, you know, I think there are good points to having this technology being so accessible and out there. And there's, you know, the bad stuff. I think that things like, you know, everybody's talking about AI and how that's uh, kind of interfering or, you know, taking over in some creative aspects. And I feel, which is awful. I don't think that that's, I think, I know AI is out of the bag as far as like, you know, in the creative world. I
Yeah.
wish that AI would have kind of stayed out of that world a little bit and like done things like, hey, windshield, if I'm driving in the sun, can you do something so that there's an AI chip that can like darken my window enough so, you know, maybe do my taxes, you know, I don't need you to write me a poem or write me music, okay? I can do that, you know, but what I
No,
need
I
you
hear
to
ya.
do is stuff that, you know, I can't do, so that, you know, we can do stuff that is meaningful and creative. But I think that, you know, as a young person today, I mean, even, you know, people are used to filming themselves, and people are
Yeah.
used
No,
to like,
totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
you know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh, you know, that's not what I don't practice taking photos of myself and practice. I don't I know that's like, you know, somebody, it's like, well, that's part of it now. And it's like, is it? I don't know. Is it? Maybe that's, I'm the anti. You gotta like, because I think I was just alerted to this band called Glass Beams, which nobody knows what they look like because
Oh,
they
that's
wear makeup,
funny.
and
That's
nobody,
funny.
and they're definitely like that psychedelic, you know, like jam, not jam, but psychedelic, like
That's
laid back
cool.
kind of thing.
I
And
gotta
I
check
don't
them
know
out
what
then.
country, yeah, I don't know what country they're from. And there's only one person that kind of is named somewhere along the line, but you don't know. There's three members in the band. You don't know who the members are. No one's
That's
listed.
cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's crazy. So I mean, not crazy, but it's kind of, it's. I was like, oh,
It's
that's
a
an
cool
interesting.
mystique.
It is, because I mean,
Yeah.
as far as I know, they're not from. They're also not from this. They're not American.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
from a different country. So it is. It's kind of cool. It's like, well, you know, to so there's, I guess, different elements. That's kind of the anti. I guess video yourself all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the anti-establishment right there.
Yeah, I guess.
You
I mean,
know?
maybe there's probably videos of them, but they wear these ancient masks,
Mm,
not like wrestling things or anything like that. It's like there's, I think, there's a story that goes behind what they wear. I don't remember what it is, but
mm.
so kind of cool, I guess you
Yeah.
say.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, Catherine, is there anything else going on that you wanted to talk about? Like any projects you have coming out, or anything else you wanted to mention?
I mean, the big thing is, like I said, if I, you know, I mean, I guess I can mention the movie I'm currently, well, Spooked is going to be coming out at some point soon, and there's definitely going to be
Okay.
something cool. There's the soundtrack that is going to be out. I don't know. It'll probably be digital and maybe a physical form. I don't know yet how that's going to happen or when that's going to happen. And then of course the End Zone 2 Once and Future Smash Blu-ray release is coming out to, you know, people who back
Awesome.
the film. And so, and I, as I am saying, it's like I'm working on something now that I think the trailer first got out, but I'm so far I haven't publicly said that I am scoring it because I want to get through most of this film before I actually mention that I'm doing it. Because I actually replaced someone, so I don't want to be making that. And that was
Okay,
your
okay.
choice. So,
I see.
and it's fine. I mean, I think, there was a certain aesthetic that, the director, it's the director's movie. I am here to
Yeah,
make,
yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
no, totally.
And so that's cool. And then what else? Gosh, there's a lot. And then the director I was working with in Atlanta, I know there's new stuff that they're hopefully going to be
So you're
shooting.
like keep staying real busy filming
Well, it's not. I
foreign
mean, you
films.
go through like, the truth is, you go through these periods where I'm waiting. I got to wait for the stuff to be filmed, and then
That's
on the
true.
side, I was starting to write for some music library stuff, but that's kind of bottom of the barrel for me right now because that's the kind of stuff where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen if it's not promoted and nobody buys it. There's no money coming into my pocket from that. But that's another
Right, right.
element. But the big things I would say that Axe Monkey is we are going to have a release called Metal Monkey, and we are working on
Nice.
stuff now. And then Fomenko. So it's so everything that I'm talking about right now can be you can hear on catherinecapozzi.com. That's
There you go.
CATHERINE Capozzi, CAP as in Peter, OZZI.com, or Axe Monkey, AXEMUNKEE.com, or Fomenko, which is spelled FAUXMENCO.com. And so those are the big projects. I think that there will be physical media coming out soon with those things. So I mean,
Awesome.
not physical, digital. Sorry, digital.
Yeah, no problem. Catherine, it was awesome having you on. I thank you so much for your time, and you definitely had a lot of encouraging words, so I appreciate that you coming on
Absolutely.
and
Gonna
sharing
keep.
your experience.
Well, thank you for asking me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and we'll have to have you on back some other time. And you got anything else new going on and release that comes out, or whatever. We'll have you back on for
Well,
sure.
you know what? If I can send you some release, I'll send you some
Absolutely.
I'll send you some Axe Monkey stuff so you can at least hear
Awesome.
what's happening since
Yeah,
you're
no, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, and
okay.
yeah, so absolutely send that over and looking forward to hearing it. And everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And don't forget to embrace your storm. See ya.